We all come here for a good scare, don't we? We seek out stories of Slender Man in the woods, of Jeff the Killer's haunting smile, of rituals gone wrong. We treat them as modern-day campfire tales. But sometimes you stumble upon a story that feels different, one that doesn't play by the rules, one that has no clear monster, no satisfying ending, just a deep, lingering sense of dread that follows you long after you've heard it. Our story begins with a man named David. In 2017, David was a grad student studying archival media, old film, decaying audio tapes. He frequently scoured estate sales and flea markets for forgotten relics. At one such sale, in a dusty basement in Wellsworth, he bought a box of unlabeled VHS tapes from an old, run-down house that was being cleared out. Most of the tapes were blank, home recordings of soap operas that had decayed into magnetic soup. But one tape was different. It was longer, and the label wasn't blank. It just had 3 question marks scratched onto it in faint marker. That night, David put the tape on. The first 15 minutes were pure, rolling static. The kind of empty broadcast signal you'd see after the channel signed off for the night. He was about to eject it when the static changed. It wasn't random noise anymore. It had a pattern, a rhythm, a slow, pulsing wave. In the waves of static, David swore he could see things. Shapes, a flicker of a room, the outline of a door. It was hypnotic and deeply unsettling. The tape ran for another 2 hours like this. He watched the entire thing, unable to look away. David became obsessed. He digitized the tape. He ran audio filters, video filters, trying to clean up the signal to see what was hidden in the noise. And that's when he found it. Buried under 2 hours of noise, at the 1 hour, 17 minutes, and 42 seconds mark, was 1 second of complete digital silence. Not a single byte of information. A perfect void. And immediately after that void, a voice. David played it over and over. It sounded like "See Me." He posted his findings on a small, obscure forum for analog horror enthusiasts. He thought it was a cool mystery. A user named static_archivist immediately direct messaged him. They said just 2 words: stop digging. David, of course, didn't stop. He went back to the house in Wellsworth. It was empty, slated for demolition. He talked to a neighbor, an old woman who'd lived on the street for 50 years. She said the man who lived there was a recluse, a radio engineer. She said he'd tell kids he was trying to tune into the space between stations. She said he died in the house. They found him in front of his TV, which was filled with static. The coroner's report said heart failure, but the neighbor said his face was frozen in a perfect, silent scream. That night, David was working late in his studio. His computer screen flickered. For a split second, it was replaced with the rolling static from a tape. Then it was back to normal. He wrote it off as a glitch, but then it happened on his phone, on the reflection of his dark window. He was seeing static in the periphery of his vision. He was hearing it, a faint hiss underneath the sound of his refrigerator. He went back to the forum. The user, static_archivist, had gone silent. Their profile was deleted. All their posts were gone. It was like they never existed. But in David's DMs, their last message had changed. It no longer said "stop digging." It now just said, "He is in the negative space." David finally understood. The static wasn't the monster. It was the veil, the cage, the 1 second of perfect silence on the tape. The negative space, that was where it lived. The engineer hadn't been trying to broadcast a signal. He'd been trying to build a prison for something. And David had accidentally tuned into its frequency. He wasn't seeing static everywhere. He was seeing the walls of the prison thinning. The final post David ever made was a long, frantic rant. He said the entity had no form. It couldn't be seen directly. It existed in the gaps, in the blank moments between thoughts, in the silence between heartbeats. It manifests as what you fear most, because it is a reflection of nothingness itself. He said it was getting stronger, that it learned from him. It fed on his attention, his fear. His last sentence was, "It doesn't want to be seen. It wants to be recognized. And once it is, it doesn't need the static anymore." David's apartment was found empty. His computer was on, displaying a pure black screen. His door was locked from the inside. The only thing out of place was his VCR. The tape was gone. In its place was a single, unlabeled audio cassette. The police played it. It was 2 hours of silence. But if you listen to it on headphones, with the volume all the way up, you could just barely hear the sound of someone breathing. It's not David's breathing. It's ragged and mechanical, like static, trying to mimic the sound of a lung. The story of David and the Wellsworth tapes ends there. No body was ever found. The case is closed, but the tape, or copies of it, are supposedly still out there. People claim to have seen fragments of it buried in other videos, hidden in the white noise of dead air broadcasts. Which brings me to why I wanted to tell this story tonight. 3 days ago, while researching this video, my own equipment acted up. While editing, a file corrupted. It was just a few seconds of my own footage glitched beyond repair. But before I deleted it, I ran audio filter to clean up the noise. Underneath the distortion, the software isolated a voice. It was my voice, but was wrong. It was slow and distorted, just like on David's tape. Maybe it's a coincidence, a random glitch, pareidolia, the mind seeing patterns where there are none. I'm sure that's all it is. But tonight, when you turn off this video and your screen goes black, pay attention to the afterimage, to the faint hum of your electronics, to the silence in your room. Is it just silence? Or is it negative space? Good night, and try not to look too closely into the static.